All right, everybody, and welcome to the Shark is Broken fan page. Today we have a very, very special guest, a man that I wish I met on Martha's Vineyard, but our paths did not cross. And he's a great author, and he has a show called Let's Talk Jaws Live, and he had just put out a brand new book. Let's see if we can do this. These image things. Let me see if I can put it. There we go. I have to block myself this brand new book, which is phenomenal, which I'm happy to say I'm actually in. Uh, 50 Years of Jaws, Fanatics, Mr. Micheal Smith. Michael, thank you so much, my brother, for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
All right, let's get to the nitty gritty. I don't know how much time you have, but I want to get a little bit of history on you. Give us when Jaws got on your radar. How
Uh,
old were you?
just turned 15, and my dad asked me what I wanted to do for my birthday, and I'd seen these television commercials for a movie that looked really good. So I said, I want to go see this movie. And he dropped me off at the theater, and I went inside, and I asked for a ticket for Dog Day Afternoon. And the girl in the box office said, "That's rated R." And I had a real sad face, and then she kind of leaned forward, a little microphone, and she said, "Have you seen Jaws yet?" And I hadn't, so I did. And
So Jaws was nowhere near your vicinity of
no,
thinking.
no,
Wow.
we actually moved to Florida the week the Jaws opened. Until school started, we stayed with my grandfather over in St. Pete. I used to ride my bike over to the beach, and I'd go in the water, and people would say like, "Well, watch out for Jaws, buddy," and I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about.
And what year was this? 75?
75.
Oh wow, okay, yeah. I was 8 years old in '75, so I couldn't. I couldn't go. I don't think they would be bringing an 8 year old to a movie like. But everyone in my neighborhood had the paperback, so and I had a really good high level of reading, and I read the paperback. So I knew the gist of what was going on, which I really didn't know the gist because the book is completely different from the movie as it was. And it wasn't until they reissued it in '79 I got to see it myself, and that was it. I walked in. I'm from Brooklyn, and it was the Midwood Theater, and I just walked in, and then it was like start time. I just walked in, and it was the scene where Quint and Dreyfus are underneath the ship fixing the gears. So I saw the end of the movie,
Oh,
and then had to wait 20 minutes to see the whole thing again. But I was done already, and I told this I tell the story a lot. That night I went to sleep, and my mother comes running up, and she said I was having a nightmare and I was swimming in my bed.
oh, jeez.
So I got affected that way, and that was it. It imprinted on me, but the way it imprinted on you is that you actually went and pursued. You've been to locations, you became friends with people. So now 15 happens. When did you really get the bug to say, okay, now I want to go to on location. I want to meet this person.
Probably about a year later, I wrote fan letters to Roy and Robert Shaw and Richard, and I got a letter back from Roy's agent who said Roy is not interested in a fan club. I got a
You
letter
wanted to
back,
create a fan club?
well, to join one if you wanted to
Oh,
have one.
okay.
And I got a letter from Richard's cousin Arlene, who told me for $5 I could join Richard's fan club,
Of course.
which I did. And then eventually, about a year later, she got tired of it, so I took it over. So I ran the fan club till it ended in '79.
Oh, wow.
Um,
And what was included? Did you guys have like a membership kit, or was it just a response from people?
um, his agent, Meyer, Michigan, sent me a 4x5 black and white negative of him in the scuba suit, but it had his signature on it. So I would just print up pictures. I would do quarterly membership kits. All the Um, all of the news articles. Arlene had sent me about 7 or 8 snapshots, very candid snapshots of Richard at home. You got copies of those.
Wow.
So, like I said, that went on through '79.
Did you encounter
And
him at any of that at that time?
I'm sorry.
Did you encounter him? Did you get to meet him
No,
during those years at all? No, not even a
never.
phone call. No phone call response either.
No.
Wow.
And then in '77, um, we went up to. I was in Tampa. We went up to Navarre Beach, where they were filming Jaws 2, and I dropped a letter off at the front desk to put in Roy Scheider's mailbox. And it was another fan letter. And, I'm running Richard's fan club. If you don't have a fan club, I'd love to start it. And about a week later, a day after my 17th birthday, I got a handwritten letter from Roy giving me permission to start his fan club. Put me in touch with his publicist, Nancy Seltzer. So for the next 8 years, I was answering his fan mail.
Wow.
Got to
And
go through.
how would one go about to find out that there was such a fan club going on? Like I said, I'm from Brooklyn, so my cone of the world was what was going on my block. What was I in the daily news? I would see what was going on. So I guess you really had to be an avid fan for a person. So where would it be advertised that I would say, hey, I would want to reach out to that person? How are you reaching out to people?
I initially wrote letters and just sent them to. My initial letters went to Universal,
Okay.
Universal Studios, and they have people in the mailroom. They look, at Roy Scheider care of. Okay, here's where his mail goes, and they usually have agreements with the studio, or they take it to the producers like Zanuck Brown's office. They forward it to New York. Um, so I started doing Roy's fan club. Um, Roy had a lot of contact with Roy. He would send me letters, updates. I've got a letter that says just finished sound looping on Jaws 2. Certainly enough of yours truly. I'm about to start on a movie called Last Embrace, directed by Jonathan Demme, who did Handle with Care. Um, so he called me. Actually, he called me the day they killed the shark. Called me at home because that was the last day of shooting, and
Mm-hmm.
he said hi. He said I just killed the shark, and back then you didn't know the words spoiler
Right,
alert.
right.
So, but yeah, I got to go meet him. He did Saturday Night Live. Got to go up there and hang out with him up there.
Yeah, because I
Um,
read in the book you were at the dress rehearsal for that, right? By his
I was
invitation.
I was in the audience for the dress rehearsal, and then for the show, I was backstage, back in the wings.
Wow.
I remember standing next to Jim Belushi when Stephen Wright was on doing his act, and you're familiar with Stephen Wright.
Of course.
But he talked very monotone, and Belushi wasn't hearing him, so I would basically do Stephen Wright's act for Belushi. I'd go, I spilled some spot remover on my dog. Now I can't find him.
Yeah,
Stuff
yeah,
like
yeah.
that. But so that's how that started, and then not ironically, coincidentally, oddly, um, in my friend and I were coming out of a movie in '78, and we saw somebody holding the evening paper, and all we could see on the headline was folded was Jaws Starred Eyes, and we ran over, and it was Robert Shaw had passed, and when I got home on my bed was an envelope, and the autographed picture that I had written away for 2 years before was on my bed. It had
Wow.
been into that day.
That's ironic. Holy cow. Well, and definitely you got one of the last signatures because I'm sure he wasn't around signing much stuff as it was. He was a very private guy.
Very private. It was,
Holy
yeah.
cow, that's amazing. Wow. So now during Jaws 2, you didn't want to see like if you can like be an extra or anything like that while they were shooting. You didn't try to work your way into something like that.
Wandered up. We got on the beach, but we were not officially extras. I think on my IMDb page it has me as extra uncredited because we were there, kind of like Matt Damon and Ben Affleck are extras in Field of Dreams
Right,
because
right.
they're at the Red Sox game. Um,
So you
yes,
are in a crowd type of crowd scene.
yeah, I can't. You
You
can't. I
can't
can't see.
identify yourself.
No,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
we're there.
And were you able to see the shark itself? Did you see no, it was that was hidden around somewhere.
It was like somewhere else. It wasn't where we were.
And what about now? It's being in Florida. Did you attempt to check out Jaws 3D?
I saw it when it came out in the theater. I was living in Maryland at the time,
Oh, okay.
but I mean, I'd been to SeaWorld, but there was nothing exciting going on there when I was there.
Yeah, yeah. I saw it in the theater too. And once you saw the fish getting eaten, that little and it was a little tiny fish. It wasn't a giant fish because in reality that shark would have just swallowed it whole, you know. So I was like, oh, I said we're in for a treat with that thing, you know. And honestly, I like watching it without the 3D. You know, when you do see it because the whole thing of when the guy gets the adventurer, the Australian guy gets totally sucked in by the shark. I mean, that's some there's some really good effects in it. The worst effect is it coming towards the window and the glass shattering, you know, and then you
You
see
know,
that behind the scenes thing, you're like, oh boy, poor Joe Alves, you know, that's the one that he had to deal with.
it was filmed for 3D, but when you don't watch it in 3D, you can say, okay, this is the jaws floating at you or the shark coming through the window. You think, okay, this is where the 3D was.
Right, right. Well, yeah, the technology of it. Like I think the Friday the 13th 3D was a little better effects wise. I think compared to that. I think the technology was a little bit better than that. So now moving on. Now the membership things end, and where do you go now with your Jaws fandom?
Just a big fan, and follow what I could in the news. Um, we didn't have the internet back then, so you're always checking out, People Magazine or Rona Barra used to put out a couple magazines, Gossip in Hollywood,
Right,
um, and I really didn't do a lot until probably 90, no, not even 90s, probably early 2000s when I joined JawsMovie.com, Jay
right.
Gove's site,
I remember that.
and to find that and to realize, okay, it's not just me. There are people all over the world that have the same infatuation with this film. That was probably where I really started getting into it because I mean I was always into it, but where I had people I could talk to, I could share stuff with, and you know I knew Greg Nicotero before I knew he was Greg Nicotero
Oh wow.
because he was on that site, and I had a friend um, in the late '70s, early '80s from Brooklyn. His name was Tom Rogers, and he had some kind of inside track where he could get studio stills and slides. And every now and then he would, I had to buy them from him, but he would send me, I got these 4 slides or these 10 pictures from Jaws. So I have a pretty nice studio release still collection. And Greg, of course, collects them. And we would trade each other copies. I would say, I've got, I'm looking for still number 102. And he'd say, "Oh, I need still number 58." And oh, okay. So, you
Would you
take it
have
down.
doubles of it that you would trade off, or you were trying to do a complete
Yeah,
collection?
either have doubles or take them down to like FedEx
Oh,
or
so you
St.
make a
Joe's.
copy then?
Yeah, make a
Oh,
copy of
okay.
it.
Yeah, I'm
So,
a stickler that way. I like I try to get as original as possible. I have some publicity stills, and on the back when NBC was airing it, it has all like origin notes of the scene and what was going on the back of the still itself, stuff like that. Yeah, it's unbelievable. So now, what got you to say, all right, now I want to write a book about Jaws?
Well, I wrote about film in high school, and in '99, I kind of became a film critic, a recognized film critic, and I wrote stories. I used to write for a website called crazefanboy.com, and one year I just did every week a different segment on the making of Jaws. And in 2011, I went to Martha's Vineyard because Matt Taylor was having his book release party for Memories from Martha's Vineyard.
Now I gotta
And
stop you for a second. I gotta stop you.
sure,
So you didn't go to Jaws Fest?
I did go to Jaws Fest,
The
but I
first
wasn't.
was that was 2005, right?
2005, yeah.
Okay,
So
okay. I want to.
I wasn't writing anything
Oh, okay.
back then, Jaws related. I did
And let's let's let's
actually.
let's let's get to that then with Jaws Fest. How is your experience dealing going with that?
First Jaws Fest was amazing. They expected 500 people. They had 3,000 show up. Everybody was nice. Autographs were free. The
Did you
outdoor
do like
screens.
Did you do the platinum package or whatever, or you just went and uh whatever happens?
Yeah, we just went. A
Okay.
group of us. Dana Goudreau, who's also in the book, and as one of the fanatics, um, he was able to track down the log cabin that Steven Spielberg lived in when they were filming the movie, and seven of us rented the cabin for Jaws Fest. And people were coming over and walking around, and in the corner of the living room was a little writing table. And Carl Gottlieb, when he came over, he said, "It's the same desk my typewriter was on."
Wow.
So we're all thinking, how can we get this out of the house? Put that in our suitcase. So we did that, and then in 2006, 40 of us rented a 5-house compound on the island, called it No Fest. And then in 2007, we did Rest Fest. But yeah, the first Jaws Fest was amazing because it had
The
never
second
been.
one I heard kind of crapped the bed, right?
The second one,
Did
and
you go to
I
that
always,
one?
yeah, I always preface this by saying I was there as a guest, as a VIP guest, um, so I didn't have to pay for anything, any of the events. But the stories I heard about people going there the first day and getting the souvenir program for free, and then the next day they were $20,
Mm.
or they paid $500 for a VIP bracelet, and all they got was like a keychain, and it was just it was a money grab.
Yeah.
Um, it was a money grab. So, um, but the year before that, in 2011, um, we had I'd gone up for the book release party, and Lou Pisano, my dear friend Lou, who passed a while ago, he and I were talking to Matt Taylor and Jim Beller and Tom Dunlop, Timmy from Jaws 2, who's
Yes.
an author. And I said to Matt, I said, "Are you going to do a book on Jaws 2 now?" And he said, "No, this one took so long to write." But then he said, "You should do it," because by then I was a critic. I had actually reviewed the book. I was the first writer to review that book. I was the first person to review The Shark Is Still Working. So they knew I had some writing chops. And Lou had written a couple things for Screen Magazine, and he said, "You two should do it." And we talked about it, and we said, "Okay, we'll do it." So 4 years later, we released Jaws 2, the making of the Hollywood sequel.
Now I have the new version of it. That that you put out. And boy, I tell you, that is as extensive that you can get. I mean, it's incredible. It's incredible. The knowledge and the history and the stories. I mean, I kudos to you to for putting that together. It really is an incredible book. It really is. It's
Thank you.
great reading. And so now Fanatics is right after the making of. So you felt that, with the 50th coming up, that you had the desire to make this one.
Right. Well, in 2020, Edith Blake asked me if I would update
The On
her
Location.
on location book,
Right.
and yeah, happy to do it. Wrote a couple chapters, um, threw in some photos, and then shortly after that book came out, Edie found some more negatives at her house, and she donated them to the museum where all of her negatives went. And so I was able to do a 50th anniversary with a little more. I wrote a little more for it, but I had about 30, 40 pictures that some of them had never been published. Some of them are actually, if you go to Martha's Vineyard Museum to the display, the deeper dive, some of those photos are reproduced there.
Right.
But I think Edie's book is the only one that's published.
I bought that book too. I went to the Edgartown bookstore, and it was nice when I walked in. It had a really nice display, and yours was front and center, which was great. And I go to the lake. Was this the only copy? He goes, no, there's a few more in the back, and it was so fun that I posted it on Facebook that me holding the book and then opening a book and then seeing myself, which I really am honored that I'm part of that book. So thank you, Mike, really. And the only quip I have with you, I have one
Uh-huh.
thing to say. My tattoo is not in the book.
I didn't get to pick all the tattoos. My
Oh,
publisher went.
and my tattoo is in the shark is still working. I'm looking through. I'm like, what? But you use my Bruce shots from the academy. I appreciate that, and the picture with Ian I got to say too is anybody, this is as up to date as you can get. I mean, this is literally like whatever happened yesterday. It's in here. I mean, you
Yeah.
so up to the minute of what's
I
going
think
on with this. It's incredible.
I think I mentioned your Facebook page.
Yes, in there. Yes, you did. Yes, you did. Thank you. I appreciate that. So now let's get to Martha's Vineyard 50th. Well, hold on a second. Let's talk Jaws live. Okay, so give us the origins of that, and that happens. You try to happen every Thursday
Every
on
Thursday.
Facebook and StreamYard and on YouTube.
YouTube. It's on
Yes,
YouTube. You go to search Mayor Vaughn Productions.
right.
You'll find all of our episodes. So about 5.5 years ago, Jay Smith, no relation, approached me about doing a weekly kind of a Jaws talk show, and we talked about it. Basically, she was the first producer and co-host, and it's been going ever since. We had our 5th anniversary show last November, and it's just gained in popularity. And we've had Carl Gottlieb on and Jeff Kramer and most of the actors from Jaws 2 and John Hancock, and
That was a
we just
good
have.
get. That was a really good get. You know.
He was a good. He and his wife Dorothy, who passed a couple years ago. They were so gracious to me when I was doing the book because first off, they invited me into their home up in Indiana, and Dorothy served me cookies. And they spent like 3 hours talking about, which had to be a horrible time in his career. I mean, it affected the path of his career. All of a sudden, he went from being a promising Academy Award winning nominated filmmaker to the guy that got fired from Jaws 2.
Right.
So the fact that he told some great stories. Dorothy was lovely. She answered some questions about why the shark. The shark is it is a female shark. the way it was written to be. And if you ever read the novelization um, by Hank Searles, that is based on Dorothy's script with Howard Sackler.
Okay.
So so if you ever want to know what
Could have
John
been.
Hancock, it's between that and the Marvel comic adaptation. That's much closer to John's vision than what John would have done.
Right. It's a much darker tone to it too.
Yes, very.
Even shot darker, the way it was. Yeah, and they said there's maybe two. The guy in the parachute is his direction, and the
Yeah,
shark when it first comes to Amity, the fin.
yeah, the thing going through the harbor.
Yeah.
And John told me that Spielberg had actually called him and suggested that shot.
And the same thing saying about Spielberg, he was approached also, and he was willing to do it, but he had commitments, and they couldn't wait. They couldn't wait on him. So
Yeah,
that's how, as you know, get into it.
yeah, he was doing Close Encounters, and his story, he didn't want to do the same thing. And he's quoted as saying, sequels are like carnival tricks, even though he did multiple sequels to Raiders of the Lost Ark and Jurassic
Right.
Park. Um, but
Yeah. Well, a couple of 100 million will change your mind real quick.
most definitely.
Really. All right. So now, let's talk about Martha's Vineyard 50th anniversary. You guys get invited to Martha's Vineyard Museum to do Let's Talk Jaws live, and you had you guys as your panel. So you have Nate Jones, you have Janie, you have Jeffrey Kramer invited, right? You had Gigi online, which poor Gigi, that was a mess as it was. That too bad she couldn't be there in person to get it done. And a surprise guest out of nowhere comes strolling in, as they say. Now, did you have any knowledge of this?
Well, we also had Joe Owls and Dennis Prince, and we
And
had
Joe was promoting, Dennis were promoting their new book.
yes. And about 5 minutes before the show started, somebody waving at me from the back of the room, and I go up there, and it's Kyle Richards, Travis's Mrs. Parker, and he leans over and he goes, "Richard wants to do the show," and I'm like, "No, no, we do not want Richard Dreyfuss to do our show." I was just like, my jaw fell.
Right.
I was like, "You're kidding, right?" He goes, "No, he just wants to come by at the end." And we had worked out a thing where if you watch the show, I say we have time for one more question. Anybody in the back? And it was supposed to be Richard standing up with a microphone asking a question. But then Jeff Kramer spotted Richard's wife, kind of put
Blew it.
everybody's attention to the back of the room. But yeah, so I walked by, I walked down the thing to get ready, get behind the desk to start the show, and Nate's doing some fine tuning, and I just whispered in his ear. I said, "Dreyfuss is coming." And he looked up at me and he stared, and I was like, "Yeah, we'll take it from there. We'll wing it." But it was great for him to come by. He got a great ovation. Val Capone posted a clip of it on TikTok, and when I talked to him last, it had gotten nearly 2 million hits.
Wow.
2 million people watching Richard Dreyfuss walk into our show. And in fact, one of the girls where I work, I was emailing her about something else and telling her I was coming down to SharkCon. And she said, "Oh, did you do the thing on Martha's Vineyard?" I said, "Yeah, we did our show." She goes, "Oh, I saw a clip of Richard Dreyfuss." I said, "Yeah, that was our show." And she goes, "Oh, I watched it again. I can see you now over in the corner." And I was like, "Yeah." So, yeah, for him to do that, he wrote the foreword for the book. And when I asked him, I told him that I know that he gets it. I've moderated a couple of his Q&A sessions, and I've gone to shows. I've been at shows where he's also been the guest, and I see how he interacts with fans, and he has such a love for them and a passion for them, and he puts up with with all their questions. Oh, God, a couple years ago, a lady stood up and asked him, you remember in Jaws, Roy Scheider closed the beaches. Richard says yes, and she goes, if you had played that part, would you have closed the beaches? So, and he just said, I do what the script tells me to do.
Right, right. I just read the words, lady.
Yeah. But if you've read the forward, you see
Yes.
he understands we're Jaws Army, we're called, but we're also a Jaws family.
Right. He's not like Shatner yelling, "Get a life," you know. he and he literally was accessible. He was everywhere that whole weekend. I mean, like if you saw CBS Sunday Morning, they did the interview at the Harborview Hotel. He was at the Orca, out by Nancy's over there in Oaks Bluff. I mean, he was everywhere. My story with him is so I go to the Jaws in concert, and he goes up. He's up. Did you go to that? We got
No, I took my family on a tall boat cruise around the island.
okay. So
And
I
about
went to that, and I paid the $500. I got. Oh, you did the paddle thing, and
no, I had a balance with the family,
oh, I
and it was
understand.
Jaws and non-Jaws.
He should say, he should want Juanita. Listen, I'm a big thing this weekend. Let me be the big thing because I go back to being myself come Monday. But you're a good husband. You're a good. Well, I said I tried to reach out to you when you were doing something the whole time. The only time was like you were at the bookstore. I think doing a signing, and I was of course I was doing something else at the time. So we go to the Jaws concert thing, and he comes out on stage, and after a while, I go to get a drink, and he's in a golf cart under the tent, and this one guy just yapping away at him. And he does when he does the smile and he does the nod and does the nod. And I'm like, okay. And he was eating ice cream and he didn't have a napkin, and I went over and I got a napkin. I gave it to him and he gave me the wink, and he did that. And I got a drink, and all of a sudden I saw people starting to take a photo with them. I'm like, oh, here's my opportunity. And I go to take a photo, and I have an iPhone, and when it's too dark, it circles like to try to capture the light. And it took like me about 5 seconds for it. And he looked at me, goes, longest selfie ever. He goes to me. So now we go to the Wharfs Pub, and I have the clapboard. That's a frameable version of it. And I had I had Joe sign it. I had the Seal brothers sign it. Greg Dole, Jeffrey, and I had a spot for him. And he was charging $100 an autograph, and he was charging $100 a photo. When I first met him, he did the Big Apple Con. First time he was doing it, it was $30 across the board. And I brought anything and everything I had Jaws wise. I even like made a bundle price with them, And I mean, it was great. So I go to him and he signs a thing, and I say, hey, I'm a New York boy, and we started talking about New York and this and that, and I have my wife Debbie have my phone, and I go, just take photos as I'm talking to him. Just take photos. So she's click, 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 click. And at the end, he finished. I go, Richard. He said, would it be okay if I get a picture of you just holding the clapboard? I don't want to be in it. And he looked at me. He gave me the dreyfus laugh and goes, "Fuck you." And I grabbed him, Mike. I grabbed him like this, and I pinched his cheek, and I go, "Only a New Yorker can say that to another New Yorker." And that's like, if that's the only time, the last time I ever meet Dreyfus, I'll take that memory, because he said it in jest. It wasn't, mean about it.
That's that way. I did a Q&A for him in Kansas City in 2019, and the promoter had forgot to order him dinner. And my son was there, and I said, Philip will go get you dinner. So they went somewhere, and they gave him money, and they bought his dinner. When he came back, it was like $10 more than what they'd given him. And his wife's trying to, Richard, give him $10. And my son's like, no, you don't have to do that. You bought me dinner. And my son said, what he said next was the only time he realized it was Richard Dreyfuss, because he leaned in with that $10 and he says, "Are we gonna fucking do this?" Like Richard Dreyfuss says it.
Yeah.
And yeah, so Philip took the money, but then he got it back because he got me on the if you ask me a question I've heard a million times, you got to give me $10 thing. So
That's
he
fun.
got his money back.
I also went to the Cabot Theater, and I was there for the incident,
Yeah,
and I videotaped him walking out, and he wore a dress to a Taylor Swift song, right? And I wasn't gonna. I know I would tape it, but I taped when he talked about the shark is broken, and I taped towards the end when he talked about Jaws. But in the middle, he did the whole thing, what the controversy was about. And I posted when he walked out in a dress, and literally same thing like with him walking into with you guys. Next 400,000 views on YouTube. Newspaper, they had it like connected to their article about him. Like it was the biggest controversy ever. How he's because he spoke his mind.
right.
And literally I was in seats. People actually were walking out going, all right, so long, grandpa. And people were walking out. I mean, listen, you know what the problem was? The person that he had moderating was no good.
Yeah,
And he took her on the tour that he was doing with the screenings and the meet and greets and everything, and she just wasn't good, and it laid flat, and it almost like she brought him that way on that road for
yeah.
him to
I
talk.
volunteered. I even volunteered to come up and do it. Anytime
Right,
he does it, I always reach out and say, "Hey, I'm happy to do it," because the ones I've done with him, I took him through 21 questions once. It just,
right.
and it's
And let it be up to him if he takes 5 minutes, 2 seconds, or 10 minutes on what it's about. Like the same thing, like when she was talking. I mean, I would have brought up about Holland's Opus and all different genres. She talked about it. It was just not great, not great at all. So now that you're at SharkCon, what are you doing there? Are you going to be moderating? Or are you just going to be a guest? What are you doing there?
I'm a guest. I'm doing a book signing. I'm helping moderate the Jaws panel, and then also
And who's going to be on that?
it's gonna be Richard, Jeff Voorhees, the Cyril brothers, and Carla Hagendijk.
The
Ashley.
Shark Girl.
Yeah.
And that was great too. That there were people at the Jaws and concert had stickers on them saying, "Ask me what I did in Jaws." And those were the locals that had the scenes. And I didn't get to meet her, but I got to meet the mom and the little girl that was on the 1979 lobby card running out of the water. So now, when you were in Martha's Vineyard, other than that, because I didn't see you at any of the Greg Nicotero or the Jeffrey Kramer. Did you go to the reunion tent itself? Did you bother to go to that?
Yeah, I was there. I was I had my book signing there
Oh,
in the autograph tent, and then I just walked around and just said hi to a lot of people that people I hadn't seen in years or people I'd never met face to face.
I'm shocked I didn't run into you because I did all three that day, and I
Uh,
did but it was probably after 3 o'clock. You were probably gone after 3 o'clock then, right?
I left. I probably left about 3:30, quarter to four.
Okay,
I waited around because I wanted to see Molly Scheider.
okay,
So
yeah. So talk about that. What did you show her? I saw the video.
yeah, I've emailed with her in the past and with her brother Christian, um, but she was 14, I think, when Roy passed, and I brought up, I dug out my old scrapbook from the 70s and 80s that had all the newspaper clippings and studio stills, and I showed it to her, and she was very, wow, I never knew this, I didn't see this, and then I gave it to her.
Oh,
So
you gave her the album itself?
yes,
Very nice of you. Very nice of you. What
so
is your most prized or collectible? What's the most valuable you feel collectible you have?
I always say it's two things. One is a wallet that my grandson, a Jaws wallet, my grandson um, got me when he was 6, and the other one was my dad passed in 2008, and like most fathers and sons, we had a lot of differences. We kind of patched him up before he died,
Mhm.
um, but when he passed, I had to come down here and go through his stuff and what to donate, what to keep, and he had a VCR, um, but the only movie he owned was Jaws,
Wow.
and so I've got that's also in my little place of honor. And then I guess the rarest thing I've got a Amity Holiday Inn cup from the opening scene of Jaws 2.
Oh, that's nice. That's great. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's one of the extras. If you watch Jaws 2, the very heavy set lady, um, it has the big umbrella. I went and talked to her for the book, and we said our goodbyes. And she called me about 20 minutes later, and she goes, so I took a picture of the cup. It was her cup. Um, and she called me and she says, I noticed you opened the car door for your wife. And I said, yeah, I've always done that. She says, well, if you want the cup, you can come get it. So I was like, so I ran back, and then she tried to give me the umbrella, but I had no way of getting it home. I was thinking that.
See,
So
chivalry has its rewards.
it does. So if you're watching out there, open the door. And
Now, have you seen The Shark is Broken?
yes,
You came into the city?
yes,
Oh, okay. And you only got to see it once, I guess.
yes.
And
Yeah,
did you
you
get to
saw it
meet Ian?
a million times. No, I did not get to meet Ian.
Yeah, it's the thing with that is I almost when I found out that first of all when I found out there was a play going on, I was flabbergasted, you know. And then to hear that Ian was doing it, and then seeing the photo of him, I'm like, holy cow! So I looked at my wife. I'm like, we might be going out to the UK soon. And then I heard it was coming to Canada, and I said, oh, if it's coming to Canada, it's got to be coming to Broadway. And they made an announcement on it that it was coming to Broadway. And the day of they had the grand opening of the box office, they had $19.75 tickets for the first 200 people that came. And it was from the first preview up until almost opening night. And I got there 6 o'clock, 6:30 in the morning, and I was number 7 online. I thought I was gonna be the only idiot, at least one or two, when I was 7. And there was like kids 20 years younger than me that was number 1 and 2. I'm like, you're not worthy of being in front like this, you know. I was, busting them. And about noontime comes, and there was this guy Seth Greenleaf who did the New York City production, and I was on the Instagram, and I always write, oh, I'm coming. I would write to the Instagram of The Shark is Broken, and I showed him that I had my Jaws 75 license plate. And he goes, "Oh, are you bringing it down?" I said, "Oh yeah, yeah. I want to take a picture. Hopefully, I'll take it in front of the marquee and this and that." And I have my headphones on because I was there literally 6.5 hours, until they opened up the box office. And this guy comes by and he's like talking to me, but I have my headphones. He goes, "You got the plate, right? You got the plate." And it was Seth. I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, I got the plate." So he goes, "Oh, they're coming in a half hour." I'm like, "They're coming in a half hour," and sure enough. Here comes the cast walking, and Ian's in full regalia of Quint, and I'm like, holy crap! And now you really see what this guy looks like, you know. And and everybody's sweet. And now I love Alex Brightman too. I saw him in Beetlejuice. I saw him in School of Rock. I thought that was a really great heavy hitter for a guy to play Dreyfus, for them to get. And Colin was a sweet, sweet guy. And and as you see, I'm gonna grab it here. I pushed it up. Uh, I got to do that. Wait. There we go. There we go. So you graciously put that photo of Ian holding my license plate, and they used it, and they put in People Magazine, the website, and there's the photo of all three of them holding my license plate. So I'm like, well, I marked myself in history this way. I was so happy about it. So the first time I saw the play, I saw the preview. I was more like saying in my head, "Oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe the orca is on stage." I was so taken aback by, I mean, just the opening of the way it looks in the sea and them playing the 1974 music. It was like, wow, this is real. And that's the Golden Theater is a really nice theater, nice and small and intimate. Any seat was a really good seat there, and I was taken aback by it. And then I got to meet him, and I got tickets for my wife for another show. And one that night of the performance, one of the people came up and they interviewed me. And 2 days later, I was one of the people that when they did the Instagram interviews, I was part of it. And every time I would go after the show and see him. And Seth, I'd never been to opening night for anything. And I'm like, Jesus Christ, I said, if I could ever be to an opening night, I'm going to be there for The Shark is Broken. And I got invited to it, which was like, oh my God. So long and behold, I became so obsessed with it, I saw it 10 times. And with it, as I'm going along, I started looking on Facebook and I'm like, why there's a fan page for everything. Like you guys created Jaws 50th. And I said, why is there a fan page for this? And I created it, but of course I created it like in September and was closing in November. I had about 200 followers. Well, now the UK thing kicks up. Now I have almost 2,100 people on the page, which is phenomenal. And the same thing, the way you guys interacting with each other. I had people, they had different merch. They had a shirt and a coffee cup and stuff like that. And people were sending me the programs from all those theaters. So it was really, really a sweet, everybody's great. The Finatics are really phenomenal. And now with The Shark is Broken playing in Martha's Vineyard and Guy Masterson directing again, I'm coming out of Stop and Shop, and who I run to is Guy, and one of the producers. And we start talking, and he goes, "Oh, why don't you come Friday for the run through?" I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah. Come with your wife and come for the run through." And we went that Friday, and we went into just a empty room. They had the tape taped off for the orca. They had a chair and tables, and it was me, my wife Debbie, Guy Masters, and two production people, and we just sat and watched the entire run through of it. And it was like, oh, it was phenomenal. It was great, and the guys were really great. So I go to Guy, I go, well, can I for my social media? I wanted to interview him and I wanted to take photos for the page. He's like, "Oh yeah, don't worry, just take photos." So I'm taking photos, and now I know this like the back of my hand. I know this play. So there's scenes. I'm videotaping scenes. So the guy comes up, and one of the guys goes, you can't use any of that stuff." I'm like, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, actors equity. You need access." I go, "Well, guys," he goes, the guy goes, "Why can't?" He goes, "No, you can't use it." I go, "Well, do you want me to lead?" He goes, "That's a souvenir for you. Just don't publish it." I go, "Okay, no problem. And thankfully, it seems to be a success right now. They're really enjoying the run, doing it.
Good.
Yeah. It's the whole week was great, man. It was just I had way beyond expectations. So other than the book signings, you just did family stuff. You didn't do any of the other events, right?
No, I wanted to keep it open anyway. I didn't want to commit to too many things because somebody might say, "Hey, I'm over by the Orca. You want to come down? You want to do this?" So I was kind of flexible when I could be to.
Right, and you don't want to drag the family here and there either, too, or leave them for so many hours.
Yeah, they tolerate Jaws, but I know Juanita appreciated a lot of the non-Jaws stuff too.
Right. Okay, let's end this now. How you gonna be there the whole weekend for SharkCon?
Yes,
Okay, and that's starting Friday,
Saturday,
Saturday the 12th, and then
Saturday and
it's
Sunday.
until Monday.
I leave Monday, so it's Saturday and Sunday.
Oh,
The
for the
show
weekend
is.
itself. Okay, and the book we can find. Do you have a website, Mike, or do they just go on Amazon?
They can go on Amazon. They go to, or actually, here's a good plug. Go to richarddreyfus.net. His website is selling.
Oh, great, great. And I know you were saying that you had the book plates. Are you able to do the book plate through there, or could they DM you if they buy the book and get a book plate from you?
If they buy the book, if they buy the book from Richard's site, I sign it and
Okay.
I ship it out. If people are watching,
And this is
uh,
what the book plate looks like
yes,
right there.
and if people are watching internationally, and you order the book off Amazon, um, just send Paul a message or DM me on the Jaws 50 page, and I'll send you a booklet.
Great, great. Yeah,
So,
because this will be on every single Jaws page that we have after the interview is done. Great, Mike. Thanks so much, man. It was a real
uh,
honor and a pleasure, and hopefully we get to shake hands and meet face to face eventually.
Jaws 51 next year.
I'm down. All right, everybody. Thanks for being here. We'll be talking soon because God only knows what else. I've been very lucky. I had Billy Van Zant. Gary Springer's coming up. So I've been very lucky to have people that actually want to talk to me. So I'm really enjoying this. Thanks a lot, Mike, so much.
Good night.
Ciao, everybody.